All right, so here we're going to talk about some squats and how to set up your brace. So a lot of people refer to this as the stack position. This picture here on the left is going to represent the stack, okay? What a lot of times I see on squats or deadlifts or set up on a lot of exercises, people will set up something like this, or their body will resort to this type of posture, whereas they need to learn how to kind of keep this type of posture, okay? So we're going to go through a couple different things looking at this photo here, okay? So starting with this one on the left here, on the right, whatever side. You can see here at the start of the pelvis, okay? The pelvis is tipped forward. I drew this dotted line to represent the plane of that hip. A couple things we're also going to notice here in this position, that quads are a bit shortened. The hamstrings are a bit lengthened, just given where they located on the pelvis. The rib cage is also flared, and the lower back is a bit more arched. The center of mass on this person is very far forward. So this would be somebody who has tight quads, tight calves. Maybe they use their back a lot to get things done. I would say we want to try to avoid this position or try to improve this position to something that's going to be a little bit more neutral or a little bit more posterior shifted weight, as you can see here on the left. So to get from this picture to this picture, a couple things. I drew some arrows to represent muscles and directions of pull. The hamstring is a big player. It's going to be able to pull the backside of the pelvis down so that it's more level and it's going to have a bit more of a stacked representation as in here. The front of the pelvis, we're going to use the core muscles to not only pull the front of the pelvis up, but to help get the rib cage down. Now, we're not talking about six-pack abs here. We're talking about the entire abdominal structures here, the obliques, some of the six-pack abs, and the transverse abdominis as well. The ability to breathe in this position is critical, okay? There's a couple things that we're also looking at here. The bottom of the pelvis is going to be the pelvic floor. Top of the pelvis is going to be the diaphragm, which we've talked about a little bit in the past. Now, the diaphragm is like the top of your capsule here. And if we can get a lot of pressure in this area, we're going to have a very strong brace. That's what these two arrows kind of pushing one down, one up against another. That's going to help us get that intra-abdominal pressure, which is going to help us stabilize our hips, rib cage, and ultimately be able to push a lot more weight on a squat, deadlift, you name it. So a lot of times people will be able to set themselves in a position like this, and as soon as they go into the squat, their hip drops into a position like that, arching the back, flaring the ribs, and the hip dumps into an anterior pelvic tilt. This can lead to a lot of forwardness on the knees. I would say like the tightness in the anterior tibialis can be due to this posture here. And some of the drills we're having to correct this, try to get you into this posture here, right? So this is just a nice drawing to represent what I'm about to show you. So now we're going to go through a Zercher Swap first. Okay, so setup on this is going to be a little bit different than your back squat. And a big thing here is if I were to just show again those pictures, the arched back person is here with the hip slanted forward, the rib cage is flared outwards, back is very extended, and my body weight is very forward on my foot. It's on the balls of the foot. My heels have a lot less weight on them. And I'm kind of like out in front of myself. My rib cage is forward ahead of my hips. The other posture, the better posture, the stacked position is going to be a bit more here, where the belly is in, the hips a little bit more neutral at the rib cage, and it's more of a mid-footer, like a heel pressure in terms of my weight pushing into the ground. So again, here we want to avoid. We want to try to get our body to this position, be able to work within this position, okay? So when we're going into a Zercher squat, first I would say get your stack here. Be aware of your sternum angle. A lot of people will crunch and they will over drive their ribs down, and now their upper back is super flexed and their sternum bone is pointed in towards their belly button. That's also just as bad or less beneficial like this posture, okay? We don't want to over crunch in a Zercher. So get your elbows under the bar, draw your belly in without punching your upper back, and then unrack. You're going to step back. Now, here's the critical part. We unlock the knees, the elbows go forward, but again, we don't want to crunch We want to stay tall and think pull the belly in until you feel your core, but keep your sternum and your chest up. Then you start your descent, and you want to be able to maintain that position at your torso. And again, it should seem like your hips and your ribs move together. There's no movement through the lower back. And again, we're not in a rounded position like this. So a couple key cues here. Unlock the knees, push the elbows forward, draw the belly in until you feel your core, and then squat from that position. It's going to help you get your weight back onto your heels a bit more. And again, a lot of that is due to pulling the rib cage back and getting the pelvis to be in a bit more of a neutral position. Okay. Second to that. Now let's try for a back squat. The back squat is going to leverage extension a lot more. So you'll typically see a bit more of a rib flare, a bit more of an arch position. But again, we want to improve that position. If we're too far forward, when we come down, we're going to have to hinge our hips back. We're going to have to really force our knees forward just to hit depth. And you'll see a lot of butt winking when somebody starts in a position like this, and they come to the bottom and their pelvis kind of curls back underneath the harder movements. So you can see that a little bit better. So again, if we start in a very arched, chest out, back, arch type position, as we come down into the squat, you'll hit the depth and your butt will curl right underneath you. And that is the typical butt wink. So again, to counteract that, bars on our back, unlock the knees, draw the belly in until you feel your core muscles turn on, sternum stays up, and then we come down into our squat, and we do not need a butt wink at the bottom, okay? So putting it all together with the bar, pull yourself under, get your feet where they need to be, and right here is where you want to set your brace. So keep your chest up, sternum up, draw your belly in, push on rack, and then again, check your brace. Okay, if you're in a low bar or even like a mid bar position, your knees should be unlocked. I have a slight lean forward in my torso, but it's not an arch. Okay, we're pulling that belly in, keeping our abs on and our chest up. Then descend straight down into the squat. Okay, so a lot of our difficulties on the squat are going to be due to this position here and coming down super heavy on the knees, chest is too far out in front, back is too arched, and then we have to sacrifice to get the depth. So we're here, draw the belly in, unlocking the knees, and then you're able to squat straight down, straight up. Now, another common thing I'll see is people will get into a good position, and then they start their squat, and they flare their butt and their ribs away from one another to start it. So there you want to think, just allow your knees and hips to bend. Don't think butt back, don't think about your heels, just think about dropping yourself straight down in between both of your feet. Okay? So watch out for this to start the squat. We do not want to twerk or arch the back to start the movement. You want to think about getting that good stack, knees unlocked, belly in, and that's where we start our movement. Okay, notice we did not say anything about squeezing your butt or trying to posterior pelvic tilt. Because again, if we tuck and we overdo it, we're going to then have to undo it to get out of it. Okay, so if we're too tucked, too clenched here, what you're going to see is, boom, you go into your squat, you undo it, you relax. So keep your glutes relaxed. Think about unlocking the knees, just draw the belly in, and that should be enough to get your brace to start your squat.